As a regular city commission meeting here at the City Administration Center. So again, we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, do we have a quorum present?
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you. So with that, we're going to go ahead and Commissioner Dick has the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag and the invocation.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please bow your head. Dear God, thank you for giving us today and for giving us the opportunities that we have. Please be with us as we conduct today's meeting and help us to be wise. Please be with our frontline workers as they deal both with this pandemic professionally and personally, and help us acknowledge the extra sacrifices that they are making to ensure that our community is safe and continues to operate and grow. Please be with our newly elected local, state, and federal officials as they lead us in the years to come. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner Dick. So again, I'm going to call for the approval of the minutes of the last regular meeting if there's no corrections are offered. Any corrections? Okay, seeing none, they shall stand as approved. So again, we're coming to the point in our time for public comment. Now, if you're not on the regular scheduled agenda, this is a time for public comment. We ask that if you do have public comment, please come to the podium and state your name. And again, we'll give you approximately 5 minutes. So if there's anyone who would like to make public comment, this is the time. Sheila? Oh, welcome.
I'm Sheila Crane with Garden City Downtown Vision, and I just wanted to take a couple of quick minutes and give you guys just a couple of quick updates. Back in August, we did a consumer survey, and the purpose of that survey was to get what the consumer's preferences would be not only at that time, but through the holiday season, and then to prepare the businesses downtown with the tools that they needed to be able to execute that. So that was followed up with a deep dive into social media marketing and website training so that they could prepare for that. So with that said, second quarter sales tax for downtown specifically was down about 30%. We did make up some ground. Third quarter, we're only down 15.2%. So we are making up ground. So hopefully with those tools, we can continue that momentum through the holiday season and capture what we're missing. And then just encouraging everybody to support those downtown businesses, those small businesses, not only in downtown, but throughout Garden City, because our small mom and pops and our small businesses are vital to the overall economy of Garden City. So just a reminder to everyone to support those businesses. And then lastly, I just wanted to tell each and every one of you as we're nearing the end of the year here, thank you for your support of downtown, your partnership. We greatly appreciate all of that. And then a special thank you to Matt Allen and all the department heads and all the employees underneath that work with us on a day-to-day basis. Some of these people have to deal with me at 5:30 in the morning and at 9 o'clock at night, depending on what we have going on. So we could not do what we do without each and every one of all of those people. And so I just wanted to say thank you for that as my time here is finished. So,
Sheila, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila, for your service.
So again, do we have anyone else that would like to make public comment? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to item 4.
Item 6.
5. Oh, 6, sorry.
Yeah, I would just like to call your attention to, there is an amended agenda, and all of the amendments are requests for proclamations. I just want to highlight those as they would be different than what's on the screen in the room or what folks may have seen just recently. Your new additions are in item C, D, and E. One is a proclamation for American Education Week. One is a proclamation for Family Week, and another is a proclamation for looks like we got
For
two
Match Day. Yep.
on there.
Yeah, one should be for veterans.
Would ask you to consider changing E on the agenda as shown to be a Veterans Remembrance Month.
Right.
And those are normally required with the event requested, which is Our Lady Guadalupe procession. And they've worked with staff in the past to, on routes and the different things that they need. Specifically, they're asking for a waiver to the reservation fee, a waiver of noise ordinance to accommodate a midnight mass and a morning serenade, and angle parking on St. John Street and 12th Street on Friday, 12/11, and Saturday, 12/12, which is normal parking that is authorized for them on Sundays. We do that at a few church locations that have that can have parking exceed what their lot allows for. And the comments from our staff are shown in the attachment.
And this event is usually held indoors, is that the,
Correct.
or this is, okay, so it's not traditionally outdoors?
Yeah, because I don't remember ever having a request, of that they ever did this, so this is something new, a new event.
Well, I move that we approve all the requests.
I'll second.
So it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. I appreciate them being very innovative, so that's really neat.
Mhm.
Item B, the governing body is asked to consider and approve allowing the mayor to proclaim Tuesday, December 1st, 2020 as match day in Garden City. And I do believe we also have representatives from Western Kansas Community Foundation here that may like to say a couple words.
Welcome, Connie.
Thank you. Yeah, we're very pleased to announce our 4th consecutive match day on behalf of the Western Kansas Community Foundation. This year's event will look a little different because of the ongoing health concerns around COVID. So we're hosting it online through our website. The web portal, the donor portal is matchday.wkcf.org. It's very easy to make donations there, and you can give to multiple organizations with one transaction. 36 organizations will participate and will receive distributions from our $75,000 match fund.
Congratulations.
So again, a big thank you to this community for being so generous with helping with this event, with sponsoring our match pool. This is our fourth time, and we are just blown away each year by all the generosity that's coming out of this community. So we're looking forward to this event again, of course, and I wanted to mention that this week is National Community Foundation Week. So it's a very appropriate time to do this message proclamation, I think. And instead of just focusing on one day on December 1st, which is Giving Tuesday nationally, globally, we're opening up Match Day for 2 weeks. So it's actually already open. The match portal opened on Sunday the 15th and will go on through December 1st. So again, our match portal is matchday.wkcf.org. And yeah, we're looking forward to this. And thank you, City Commissioners, for your support and for making this proclamation. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Connie.
I'll make a motion, we approve the proclamation as presented.
So it's moved. Is second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So Connie, I'm going to read the proclamation, then we'll all come down and get a picture with you if that works. I do want to say I just received, I know your annual report is out, and it's exciting to see the growth in Western Kansas Community Foundation and all the incredible things that you're doing. So if you've not gotten a copy of their annual report, it is very well done. So congratulations. So here's a proclamation. Whereas Match Day was established as a national day of giving on the Tuesday following Thanksgiving, and whereas Match Day is a celebration of philanthropy and volunteerism where people give whatever they're able to give, and whereas Match Day is a day where citizens work together to share commitments, rally for favorite causes, build a stronger community, and think about other people, and whereas it is fitting and proper on Match Day and on every day to recognize the tremendous impact of philanthropy, volunteerism, and community service in the city of Garden City, and whereas Match Day is an opportunity to encourage citizens to serve others throughout this holiday season and during other times of the year. Now therefore, I, Troy R. Unruh, Mayor of Garden City, do hereby proclaim December 1st, 2020 as Match Day in the city of Garden City and encourage all citizens to join together to give back to the community in any way that is personally meaningful. Signed and sealed the 17th day of November, 2020. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So we'll get a picture with you if you guys would like, and then,
Yeah.
so Commissioners, I'll invite you down.
Stacy Hahn for my
Come on, you would have had a picture with that mask on.
Yes.
You can see it in your eyes if you don't.
3, 2, 1.
Camera then. All right, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you so
And good
much.
luck.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
I'll keep you posted.
Yeah. I'm sure that a lot of people are going to be excited about getting that.
Yeah.
That would be great. Do you have this?
Oh, thanks, Jamie.
Here are these, man. There's 3 of them. Do we need to read all 3 today? Yeah, I'll read the Veterans Remembrance Month, and then if you want to read those, I mean, when we pass them, so.
Okay. Item C, the governing body is asked to consider and approve to allow the mayor to proclaim the week of November 16th through 22nd, 2020 as American Education Week in Garden City, Kansas.
Do we have a motion?
Mayor, I move to approve the proclamation as read.
It's been moved. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries, so.
And I'll read that proclamation.
Thank you.
Whereas schools represent a major investment by any community, and whereas teachers are among the most important part of our community's leadership, and whereas schools represent a valued avenue of improving the quality of life in our state and nation, and whereas involved citizenry provide a most important facet in their community schools, whereas there is a need for better communication and a more cooperative relationship between professional educators and the community. Now therefore, I, Troy R. Unruh, Mayor of the City of Garden City, do hereby proclaim November 16th through 22nd, 2020 as American Education Week in the City of Garden City, and encourage all citizens to reaffirm their commitment to improving and supporting education at all levels and translate this commitment into action by visiting our local schools. Signed and sealed this 17th day.
Thank you, Matt. And I didn't know if there was anyone here representing the schools that would, oh, you want to come, do you want to get a picture when we do all 3 of them? Would that work? Okay, sounds great. All right. Thank you so much for coming.
And then item D, 6D, the governing body is asked to consider and approve allowing the mayor to proclaim the week of November 22nd through 28th, 2020 as Family Week in Garden City, Kansas.
I'll make the motion we approve the proclamation as presented.
So it's been moved by Commissioner Sessom. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Dick. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
I'll read this one, Mayor, if that's okay.
That's what, this is a nice one.
Whereas family strength, unity, and respect cannot be purchased or fabricated, but comes to us instead when families are together and realize that through interaction they know love, trust, and hope. And whereas the family is society's most fundamental institution, and whereas the relationship between families and society reflects the health of the nation, and whereas Thanksgiving week is traditionally a time for celebration of the importance of family life and its role in society. Now therefore, I, Troy R. Unruh, Mayor of the City of Garden City, do hereby proclaim November 22nd through 28th, 2020 as Family Week in the City of Garden City, and encourage all citizens to observe this week with appropriate actions in their homes and this community. Signed and sealed this 17th day.
Okay, great.
And the final addition to the agenda is the governing body is asked to consider and approve allowing the mayor to proclaim the month of November as Veterans Remembrance Month.
I'll make the motion, we approve the proclamation as presented.
So we have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Euler. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. So I'll read this proclamation. It says, whereas Veterans Day has its origins in the November 11th, 1918 armistice, which brought World War I to a conclusion. And whereas the Allied victory in World War I affirmed the strength of great nations acting together for high purposes. And whereas the people of the United States caused through their elected representatives the designating of November 11th as a federal legal holiday, which in 1954 became officially known thereas as Veterans Day. And whereas Veteran Day continues to be celebrated and commemorated with solemn observances in honor of all Americans who have served their country in times of war and conflict. And whereas the City of Garden City annually celebrates Veterans Day with a community fireworks show. And whereas the 2020 Garden City Veterans Fireworks Show was canceled due to high winds, and whereas the courage, honor, sacrifice, and dedication displayed by veterans of the United States Armed Forces in pursuit of justice, freedom, and democracy are the most worthy of recognition, and whereas we are compelled as the city government in 2020 to remember with appreciation all of our veterans, past and living. Now therefore I, Troy R. Unruh, Mayor of Garden City, Kansas, do hereby proclaim November 2020 as Veterans Remembrance Month in the city of Garden City, Kansas, and call upon all citizens to commend America's veterans by solemn observances of those veterans that have passed and thanking those veterans still with us. Signed and sealed the 17th day of November, 2020. So do you want to come and talk a little bit and we'll get a picture with you?
All right, I'll let my teeth show. Are we all gonna be masked?
Yes, yes.
All right. Thank you very much for doing this. I need to really stay on top of it, have this done annually as a regular thing happening in Garden City. I do promise you next year, Veterans Day, we'll have a parade next year.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Guarantee it.
Yep.
Even if I have to run back and forth.
Right. Well, we're so grateful that you brought this to our attention. So we'll come and get a picture with you if that works for you.
Okay.
All right.
So these go into different places. Should we do each one
Care
separately, Jamie? Or that way we can get each of those causes?
Yeah.
Or-
So we'll do the American Education Week first.
All right. Are we in the right direction?
Yep, we sure are. Or you will tell us if we're not.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, can you grab the next one, and we'll give these all to you at once. This one's for the family week.
Do I need to smile?
Yes, that makes a difference, I said.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, Mr. Howard, we've got the last one. Okay, this is the Veterans Remembrance.
This is Veterans Day?
Yeah.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3.
Can I make a request that Matt Allen join us?
Sure, slowly. Okay, we have a couple good updates on the report of the city manager, so I'm going to have Assistant City Manager Cunningham come up and first talk about the grant opportunities that'll be opening up on December 1st. Jennifer?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
So this afternoon I'm here not because the grant opportunities are opening today, but we wanted to get ahead of the schedule, knowing that there are going to be so many people paying attention probably this year to the grant opportunities. I have explained to each of the three granting groups, the art grant, the AFAC grant, and the community grant, that we may see a variety of things this year. And I just wanted to talk about it a little bit with all of you. As we went into the grant cycle last year, it seemed fairly normal. We went through the process, we went through the cycle, they were awarded like normal, and we started to pay them out. And we ended up, actually, if you guys remember, we ended up paying them out in lump sums to make that money available for everyone. We got a little bit farther down the road, and a lot of the agencies and groups that received money were unable to use the money in the way that they had intended, because it either required mass gathering or it required kids being together after school or whatever it may be, and they just weren't able to accommodate that. So most of our grants became very flexible. We allowed the agencies and groups to keep them, and we worked with them to come up with other ideas of how to use them that would still be within what staff believed to be your will and your goals, or whatever it may be, given the grant. So I've explained that may be the case again this year, knowing that we're going into a very similar situation as we open this grant cycle. And so we are going to be thinking about that, and each group, as they go through awarding the grants this year, will be thinking about that. And we are going to take some extra time to do the interviews with those who are applying, so that we can try and help just as many people as possible. So in addition to telling you that these are going to open December 1st, we're going to be writing letters to every single person who's previously applied, letting them know that they're opening. We'll be doing a social media campaign, and just trying to reach as many people as possible. So if you know someone who might be interested in one of these, please send them our way. The community grant, you'll notice, has some extra funds this year because they rolled over $13,000 from last year, which I think is really great. I think that could become really helpful for some different groups. So your Community Health Advisory Board will be giving that $43,500 away to a pretty broad group. That's where we see the most of our applications come in, because there's not as much criteria. But that group has established a really good process to go through to award those funds. And then obviously there's a lot of AFAC money, and I think that we could use those services. And so if we have some groups who can put that money to use, that would be a really good place. And then of course the art grant. So this is just our beginning campaign to let everybody know that we are kicking this off, and to watch for more information. And as of December 1st, you can start applying. You guys have any questions?
No, that's great.
Okay.
This would be great dollars to have.
The second item, Assistant City Manager Cunningham will provide an update on the Garden Rapids at the Big Pool project.
Okay, so I am not alone for this update. I also have Todd from McCowan Gordon, so he has some really exciting stuff to share with you guys as well. I'm gonna run through these slides, and then he'll talk for a little bit when I'm finished. So we wanted to get before you just because obviously there's been a lot going on, but much of our social media and much of our conversations here have been clouded with other things, and we haven't got to talk a whole lot about what's going on at Garden Rapids. So that's the purpose of this presentation. So the look, as you will notice from the slides here, staff has worked with the Confluence design team to create and finalize the logo for Garden Rapids. And it is on each one of these slides. You'll see in the top left-hand corner, that is the logo. Now we'll use that in a lot of different ways. You'll see it like it is here on our presentations. It'll also be placed on clothing for the staff who work there. You'll see it on the different, I would call them rides, but like the lazy river or the slides. As you saw when we first talked with the otter was used. We've played around with it as a ball for the otter to play with, or different aspects like that. And so that's why the round logo really played into this design effort, is that we could use it for a lot of different things. And it could really kind of showcase what we were trying to do. The first step of this, interestingly enough, was picking the slide colors. picking slide colors is very difficult because you have to go for something that's not going to fade, something that works together, but then brings a pop because it's really coming 3D off of your screen when you look at those slides. And so we started by picking slide colors, and then from slide colors we went into what do we want the building to look like, and then finally down to what do we want our logo to look like. So these same colors will be used throughout the facility. You'll see here shortly that we are going to use those on the exterior of the building, and we are also going to use those on the shade cells throughout the facility. So here are the slide colors. These are finalized, these have been ordered. This is exactly the color of the slides that you will see on the final facility. This is the most current mock-up of the paint on the exterior. Now, I will say the color around the top of the building and the color in the wave is giving off a much lighter color than what it actually is. If you notice in the logo, the background is more of a navy and the largest wave color is more of a deep blue. That is more of what will be representative on the side of the building. We worked through about 6 different emails on Friday trying to get it to portray the exact color, and we just could not get there. And I didn't want you guys to miss out on seeing it. So this gives a good idea of where we're going. Essentially, the wave structure on the building, kind of creating that same idea of mural that we have now to transfer from what was the big pool to what is Garden Rapids. And so you can see the structure that you guys picked on the front with that nice big logo right in the center and those variety of shade cell colors across the top. And then this is just another view of the shade cells. Same thing here. You'll notice that the darker shade cells that are showing up more of a purpley tone. They'll be more of that navy tone. The same as the top of the building, the same as the logo. That'll all kind of pull together and fit in that navy color scheme. So once we created the new logo, around that same time, there were some exciting things going on at the pool. They were pouring the base and the walls of the competition pool, and so that created some exciting content, and we decided that was a perfect opportunity for us to switch over our places of contact, so our Facebook, our Instagram, our webpage, for Garden Rapids, so that we were no longer, you could still go back and find the information. So if you go back to the big pool, you will find all of the process that we went through. But if you search Garden Rapids, you're gonna find all new content. So we have started our new Facebook page. Last time I checked, we had about 350 people that have come over. That means we still have about 3,000 that we need to get over from the old page. So if you're friends of those people, start adding them. I think I sent about 250 of those invites the first day we switched over. So make sure that you're sharing that new page and getting people over there. We'll be sharing a lot of new content over the next 60 days or so. So these are the locations of those new places and some hashtags that we've already started to use for the new content. Construction, so this is gonna be very brief from me, and Todd will give you a little bit more. But I just wanted to remind everyone, we do still have the live feed up, and I've seen a couple people share it on Facebook a few times, but just a reminder that that is up and you can access it, and you can see what's going on, and it actually is a very good picture. Also, just so everyone here is aware, we are still currently having, well, we were until our last meeting, we were having in-person OAC meetings, and those have now gone. We will be doing those virtual until the beginning of next year. But that includes the owner, the architect, the contractor, and several others from each of those, from each of those groups that get together and talk about the project and kind of where we're at. Todd will provide a few more updates, but I wanted to show that these are the pay apps that we have paid so far. So you'll see that we've paid $3,366,000 to date on the project. So we still have a ways to go, but this is, we pay these as things are on site or complete. And so this is what we've done to date. Just some photos. These are ones that our staff, Jamie and Sophia, have gone out and been able to take. I went out and walked through last week, and I think the thing that struck me the most is one of the contractors said, I've never done a pool with this many lights in it. And I said, is that a good thing or a bad thing? And he said, well, they went through these cycles of having lights in pools, and then they went through cycles where a lot of people weren't putting lights in pools because they didn't have the right technology down. And now that they've gotten the right technology, people are just starting to do it again. And so what that means for us is hopefully a lot of evening programming, hopefully a lot of parties and get-togethers and things once we're past COVID-19 and can have those things. But it was just really cool to see. We got to take apart the light and see how that would work, how we would clean it, how we would change the bulb, you know, all of those sorts of things. And it was really cool to think that we're going to be able to do that. So, contingency as of October 20th, we had only spent $2,500 of our owner's contingency. The city manager did approve us using an additional $16,000 to $20,000 to basically upgrade the aggregate that was put into the concrete. And as you'll see, it came as a recommendation both from WTI, from Confluence, and from McCowan Gordon. This was something that they believed with the temperature change and freezing and that sort of thing, that this would significantly, 20 years versus 40 years, you know, increase our lifespan of our concrete, which for our weather and for just being wide open to the elements, I think we all can agree that that's a really important thing and something that we want this facility to last. So he did approve that, and so it was something that was kind of time sensitive because we were getting ready to do the pours, and so we went ahead and moved forward on that. And Todd can weigh in on that when he gets to it. But other than that, everything's been going along. We haven't come across any major surprises. So what's to come? Aaron Stewart has already started coming to our OAC meetings and has been participating, obviously from the perspective of programming and what do we want to do this summer, and just being another team member, obviously, as he becomes part of our senior management team. Admission prices, you're going to probably see some information from us, either the first or second meeting in December, to talk about what do we want admission prices to look like for next summer. And that will include single rates, that will include family rates, season passes, all of those things. We will need to hammer those down so that we can start, people are gonna start asking about getting those after the first of the year. And so we'll wanna get those nailed down. We'll start ordering equipment next month and into January, concession stand stuff, tubes, extra chairs that we need, anything that we're gonna need before the season. Also that will come before you in December is the elephant slide. If all of you remember, we did take the elephant slide out of the baby pool and have the intention of reusing it. So there are some options about how we reuse it. There is one option that requires us to send it off. There's another option of somebody who can do some work locally. And so we're going to be coming before you and asking you exactly how you want to do that, because it is going to take some additional budget dollars than we initially imagined. Not a lot extra, but a little bit extra. And so you guys will be weighing in on how we handle that and exactly what we do with that elephant, but we're super excited about the options they've come up with. So the other thing we will be doing is we'll be pushing out information to the public, to people who have worked for us before, people who have, we sent emails last year when we didn't have the pool open to previous lifeguards and staff about anyone who might want to work for us contacting us. So we have a list already started. We'll be sending out information to them with the jobs for the 2021 season. And we'll start to kick off that application process here in December. And then lastly, hopefully before the end of December, we'll have out a 2021 calendar and what we think those events will look like, the hours of operation, and all of the exciting things that are to come. Any questions?
It's exciting. No, it's really neat.
Okay, well, I will let Todd give you guys a couple updates on construction and
Thank you, Jennifer. Great update. That was fantastic. I guess the biggest pieces of information I can let everyone know is that we're on schedule and on budget. So we'll see you later.
That's very good news. Yeah.
No, it's we've been really blessed with some good weather here lately and taking advantage of that. As Jennifer said, we've got the pool structure, the competition pool structure is complete. We do have the foundations for the slides poured, and then the structural columns that will actually bolt to, those are pouring tomorrow. And we are going to start pour the footings for the new administration building on Friday. So all that stuff is coming along really well. Hey, Jennifer or Matt, do you have that update that I sent you with the picture? structures?
There
Is that-
are, yep, I believe it
Okay.
should be attached. It should be at the end of the item mat outside of the presentation.
Okay. See if we can get that up there. I We had a couple of pictures of the shotcrete process going on. That's something that's, even in our industry, it's not a real common process, so I was excited to be part of that as well. So this is actually a picture from that TrueLook camera that we have. That was after the last pour. We had everything covered up just to protect it from freezing. The walls, when they're pouring them, it's a 2-inch hose, and there's concrete that's literally shot out of it. So they just layer it up and then screed it off and finish it. And the excess concrete you see in the right picture, that's the rebound. That's the stuff that doesn't stick or bounces off. So they put it on plastic and haul it out. So it's a really a neat process to be part of and to watch as well. The next picture, we have showing the pump truck there where we were placing the footings, and you can also see the main drain piping going in. So that's coming in right around the plunge pool. And then the next picture, you can get a little bit better idea of just how big that piping is. You can see in the top left, there's full-grown men over there, and that's some large pipe. Now we do have the demo complete inside the bathhouse as far as we can go until all the structural steel is in, and we can take that shoring system out. A couple other notable items: we are on schedule on the project, and we're again been really blessed with a lot of good weather. The pay application, Jennifer and the team have been very prompt at getting those to us, and that helps us just be prompt with our trade partners as well. So we thank you guys for that. We talked a little bit about the footings here, and the filter building will be starting next week as well. So we have used a little bit of the design contingency, and that's exactly what that was intended for. The design was not 100% complete when we awarded contracts. So based on our experience, we said we need a certain percentage. So we've used approximately about what we figured we would, so I think we're right on budget there. We do have a couple of pending items, and those are we're finalizing those with the design team. So whenever we get anything from a trade partner, we validate that with the design team before we send it on. So, but we do kind of keep track just to let everybody know where those things are at. The construction contingency, we've used just a little bit of that money. We had go down one more page there. So we had the CR number 10, the pool scope buyout, just in the initial budgeting, there was a whole lot of different options going around, and one of them, we wound up crediting $40,000 back twice, essentially. So that was just to make that contractor whole. And then the other two items that you see there are options that we've looked at and said, if I was owning and operating the pool, this is something that I'd want to do. So I think we're in really good shape on that one as well. Additionally, now this little piece of information isn't there or in this report, but I know one of the things that the commission wanted was local trade partner engagement. So we went back and looked and ran numbers on things. Of the 14 subcontracts that could have been awarded to a local trade partner, we awarded 12 of them.
Good job.
And of that, dollar-wise, 96% of those dollars stayed local. So we're really happy with the engagement that we had. I mean, it's a two-way street. We had really good engagement from local trade partners as well. So, but wanted everybody to know that we took that seriously and took that to heart, and let you know what the results were of it. So,
That's great.
but yeah, we're looking good on our schedule and our budget, so we're really pleased with the progress. So, do y'all have any questions?
If we'd like to come out and see, do we just need to have Jennifer contact? Because I'd love to come
Yeah,
and see the progress.
Absolutely, stop by anytime, and if you don't have John or Blaine's number, I can get you that.
Okay.
And just, anytime you want to go there, more than happy to show anybody around.
And the live feed link's really awesome too.
It really
check it
is.
every morning and just kind of see the progress as it keeps moving, so. Again, that might be something to share on the new Facebook page of your Facebook page and other areas too.
We will do that. We'll share that again, just so people don't forget that it's out there.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's looking really good, thank you. And the logo and the colors, I'm so grateful someone else chose all of that stuff. So I was concerned that we were gonna have to, and I thought, that could be pretty hard to do. So whatever that team was that did that, I just want to say thank you, and I'm so grateful that they did it, so.
Yeah,
Looks
they did
really
a nice
good.
job.
You're
They really
welcome.
did.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Todd.
Todd, thanks, Jennifer. You see the rest of the report of the city manager is staff reports. If you've got any questions on those, we'd be happy to try to answer them.
The only was, and I was gonna ask, are most airports, especially around our size, experiencing the same numbers, Matt? I know that we sometimes compare ourselves to Manhattan and, I just lost the other one. Salina, but I didn't know.
Sure, I don't know if Rochelle's
Rochelle's
here.
She's right there.
Close?
Hi, Rochelle.
Hello, good afternoon. Overall, the aviation industry is about a 38% load factor.
Okay.
We're around 50%, so we are doing better than the national average.
Oh, that's awesome.
However, we are still having lower employment numbers, but Manhattan had 6 flights a day, and now they're down to 2, so they've had reduced service as well. And smaller airports like our size that don't have essential air service has completely lost their service. So we are very fortunate that we have that federal contract in place to be able to retain our air service.
No,
And-
thank you.
Yeah, staying with our twice daily service. It was reduced for a little bit, for about a month to 1 flight, but we were back up to the 2 flights a day.
Oh, great. Good. I was just wondering how we were doing, so
Yep.
I'd hope we were doing well. It
Yeah.
sounds like we are, so thank you.
Yes, all right, thank you.
Thanks.
Meetings of note, which we announced earlier, the Veterans Day fireworks display was canceled due to high winds, so that was unfortunate. We'll probably bring some proposals back as to what we do with those funds and those contracts, but would anticipate we try to roll that into 2021 celebrations once we know more about what we're able to do, both come New Year's and next Veterans Day. All right, with that, I think we're ready for the appropriation ordinance. If approved, it would be number 2519-2020A.
I move that we approve appropriation ordinance number 2519, 2020A.
So we have a motion to approve the ordinance. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Euler. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item 10A, the governing body is asked to consider and approve the Code of Procedure for Kansas City's 4th edition, and if approved, it would be ordinance number
2885-2020.
2885-2020. Randy?
Thank you. This probably wasn't the most stimulating ordinance you've ever had an opportunity to look at, and it was just something that came to my attention a few meetings ago when I had a question about the quorum, and that we had somebody recuse themselves, and I had a question whether or not we had a valid quorum, which you did. Many years ago, the governing body adopted the Code of Procedure for Kansas Cities, and at that time it was the 2nd edition in 2006. There's now a 4th edition out, which was published in 2017, so it's time to update our code section. The two primary and major changes between what we have at the present time and what I'm asking you to adopt. Number one, in 2005, the then governing body adopted Code Section 2-37, which set the quorum at 4, and then each year the governing body was asked to once again ratify the quorum being 4 as opposed to 3. And that was to occur in June. The governing bodies over the years disregarded that code section and didn't take that step to once again ratify the quorum being 4, so it was at 3. So there's no need at this point, in my opinion, to continue with code section 2-37. Also, the Kansas legislature made a change to COMA, Kansas Open Meetings Act, where the quorum used to be a majority of the quorum, or it was 3 for this governing body, and so 2 commissioners could not meet because that was a majority of the quorum, two commissioners. The law was changed so that the quorum was a majority of the elected body, so 2 commissioners with the change in the law can now meet. And so our code of procedure for Kansas City's needed to be cleaned up to show that the quorum is now 3, which is a majority of the elected body as opposed to what it was previous. That's the major change in my opinion. The second change results because the Kansas legislature made a tweak to the executive session motion. If you recall, previously, you didn't have to give a reason for the motion to go into executive session, just the statutory justification. The legislature then passed a law which indicated that governing bodies also had to give a reason. So the language in our current code of procedure needed to be changed, and so I implemented or added to the 4th edition the new language, and I also included in the section dealing with the executive session language that the motion must include who's going to be included in the executive session. That's not a requirement of Kansas law, but we've always done it, and I think it's an excellent idea so that the records can reflect who was in that executive session, and if there was somebody that was not a proper person, then the minutes should reflect that. So that is something specific to Garden City. So if those changes are acceptable to the governing body, I'm asking that you approve the ordinance before you. I think it's been given a number, is it 2884, Sealand? 85, okay. Any questions?
No, I think they're good changes, so. Any further discussion? If not, we'll stand for a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 2885-2020.
So we have a motion to approve the ordinance. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Been seconded by Commissioner Dick. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. Thank you, Randy.
Thank you, Randy. Item 11A, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a cooperation agreement between the City of Garden City and the Garden City Recreation Commission for the delivery of recreation programming and administrative services. We've previewed this item on an earlier agenda, but just to catch everybody up, at the City Commission's October 20th regular meeting, staff announced the hiring of Aaron Stewart, Garden City Recreation Superintendent, in the senior management position previously held by Public Works Director Sam Curran. This offered an opportunity to realign department groupings and to explore the interest in and logistics of dissolving the Garden City Recreation Commission component unit of government and creating a city parks and recreation department. Much work has gone into reviewing the legal process by which a dissolution would happen. Early on, it was identified that dissolution would take at least 6 months to a year. Therefore, a draft interlocal agreement between the two agencies was developed to take advantage of the window created by the city hiring Mr. Stewart. It was then determined that because what a majority of those working on the project understood to be the statutory requirements on the dissolution process and implications of a full consolidation on the city's status under current tax lid statutes, an interlocal agreement for contracted services may be the best way to structure a functional consolidation until such time as the state legislature could consider special legislation that would provide more clarity on how to appropriately dissolve GCRC, as well as special legislation that would protect the city against being adversely impacted under the state tax lid. This was the status of the presentation of a drafted interlocal agreement, which occurred at your last meeting. We now believe that the answer lies somewhere in the middle. Therefore, the item before you today is a cooperation agreement. It does not cite the section of Kansas statutes regarding interlocal agreements, which allows the GCRC to contract with the City of Garden City for delivery of recreation programming and administrative services, but also begins an effort to formally combine the two agencies under the umbrella of city government using the process identified in KSA 12-1929. Upon approval of the cooperation agreement, the agencies would begin the transition of employees and assets. In the coming months, the city and the Garden City Recreation Commission would also begin the process spelled out in KSA 12-1929 to combine operations on a presumed target date of January 1, 2022. This would be completed in time for the City Commission to take the merger into account when creating the 2022 city budget. The Garden City Recreation Commission met yesterday and approved the agreement at a special meeting of their board. You may approve this cooperation agreement, edit and approve the cooperation agreement, and then send back to the Recreation Commission for their consideration, or deny the cooperation agreement. Our recommendation is to approve alternative one, approving the cooperation agreement. We believe that the financial implication of this will certainly be something we monitor and report back on, but right now we know that the Garden City Recreation Commission currently levies 5 mills for the general operation of recreation programming and administrative services. They levy an additional 1.5 mills for employee benefits. These resources, less a small amount to be held by GCRC for legal and incidental expenses over the coming year, along with the existing cash balances in 2021 tax revenues, will be expended to the City of Garden City in accordance with this cooperation agreement. Those funds will be held in an enterprise fund and an enterprise fund reserve, so as to be able to keep the funds levied, earned, and other revenue for recreation programming separate from other funds, for instance, the City General Fund or Special Parks and Recreation Fund. 6.5 mills in 2021 will generate approximately $1,376,230 in revenue. 2019 GCRC programs generated $734,902 in earned revenue and is budgeted to generate $944,562 in 2021. We kind of just threw 2020 out the window, but I'm sure Aaron can give you some reports on that. Other revenue in 2019 generated $145,219 and is budgeted to generate $203,958 in 2021. Aaron, did you have anything you wanted to add from the discussion at the Recreation Commission Board?
So it was pretty much unanimously approved fairly quickly, so all the GCRC board members are on board rather quickly. I will say, just since we brought it up, the fiscal note for this year, obviously we're tracking below, we're about 10% down in revenues, which all things being considered is pretty good for this year.
Really good, yeah.
Because give or take, lost revenue just through the spring shutdown was right about $200,000, and that's kind of where we're sitting, and about $165,000 down where we expected to be, and compared to 2019. 2021 with the generated revenue will be interesting. We'll see how this goes. I think when we started, the 2 weeks that we got to operate before we shut down gymnastics, all things were pointing towards that generated income. We do have the Olympics next year that got delayed, hopefully. So some of those things are out there, but obviously we'll manage that accordingly.
So I want to make sure I understand the clarification. So I know that you used to do programming at the big pool. Was that included in your revenue, or?
No, we had not.
So then Garden Rapids is going to be totally separate, so you'll really be able to track the GCRC within the city, so we'll be able to track that just as you're doing now. I just want to make sure.
Yes, I
Okay.
think since we're not levying funds for that particular
Okay.
facility, I think the city is, and
Mhm.
so that will be tracked separately.
Okay, great. Well, I'm excited about the merger and the collaboration and cooperation, however we're going to do it. So does anybody else have any questions or comments?
I'll make a motion, we approve the agreement as presented.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Mayor
Thank
and
you.
Mayor and Commissioners, I put on the bench a proposed notice of intent, which is the first step in combining the Recreation Commission with the City of Garden City's new Parks and Recreation Department. So what I'm proposing be done is that this notice of intent be published on November 21st and November 28th. Thereafter, we have to wait a period of 30 days to see if a protest petition is filed and a request for an election is made. If it's not, then we can proceed with the next step. The next step would be an ordinance, which I've drafted and will present to you in January if there's no protest filed. And the ordinance will set out the combination of the recreation system of the Garden City Recreation Commission and the city's new Parks and Recreation Department. It will provide for employment of employees. It'll set out the transfer of property from the Rec Commission to the city. And it will create a Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, which will be initially the Recreation Commission board members until their terms end, and then you will appoint members thereafter, 2 terms. So that will come before you probably the second meeting in January, unless there's a request for an election. So I don't think that this notice of intent requires any action on your part. You just approve the agreement. I think the authority granted to the city in that agreement allows for the mayor and the city clerk to sign this notice and have it published.
Great. All right, thank you. Any questions for Randy? All right, thank you.
And those are the signed copies from the Recreation Commission of the agreement. So we can use those. All right. Item 12A, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a bid that will sell and develop 2 parcels of surplus city property, hopefully, located at 401 and 403 East Kansas Avenue. Jennifer.
Mayor and Commissioners, this is actually the 3rd time that we have brought this before you. If you recall, the very first time, we received nothing. Kind of went back to the drawing table, asking people why we didn't receive anything. And then we went through the process whereby you selected a bid, selected a developer, went through that, and then redeeded the property back, and here we are again. So this is, the item that's before you today is an actual business item from the pre-meeting that we had during the first meeting in November. We had, if you recall, a 90-day sealed bid process for the property at 401 to 403 Kansas Avenue. Essentially, we solicited bids at $100,000, and if they submitted for less than $100,000, kind of why and what their plans were. The idea is hopefully the value that all of you would be getting out of the property or the property was being developed into would make up that difference. And so through that sealed bid process, we did receive 3 bids from 2 bidders. We called them 3 different bids, although Eric Smith submitted 2 bids. His 2 bids were a little complicated in that in one, he wanted to exchange land for land, and in the other, he wanted to exchange money for the land at 401 to 403 Kansas Avenue. And then he had 2 different projects, but he hadn't really, if you all remember from the pre-meeting, he hadn't really developed which of those he was going to do. So option 1, let's talk about in his land exchange. He owns some property off of Jenny Barker Road that butts up to some property that we own. Mostly contiguous,
Continuous.
thank you.
Contiguous.
Except for that little square that he owns. He owns about an acre. In his proposal, he did offer us 3/4 of that acre. He is not here today. However, I did have a conversation with him and let him know that if that option was selected, that the commission was probably more likely interested in the entire acre, not 3/4 of an acre. But that I believed that if that option was selected, that Mr. Grizel could work that out in a contract that would come back before you. He seemed amenable to that. He seemed like he was interested in that, and that was definitely an option that he would consider. The other option he put forth to all of you was $27,504 in exchange for that property at 401 to 403 Kansas Avenue. And then the other bidder was from Enrique Alvarado, who is here today, and he is proposing to give you $40,000 in exchange for the property at 401 to 403 Kansas Avenue. And he also has a couple of options in mind as to how he will develop the property. So they neither one have actually formally decided exactly what they're going to do, but they've presented to you and allowed you an opportunity to ask questions about their projects, and they have offered something in exchange for that property. I would foresee, unless you give direction otherwise, that the contract and all of the negotiations that are set up by Mr. Grizel will be done similar to what we did before, so as to protect the city if something doesn't get developed there, because obviously most important to us is that something gets developed that we are interested in having get developed there. And so if you have any additional questions, I'm happy to answer them. I would foresee that the final contract and other items would come before you on the December 15th meeting, giving us some time to finalize those things.
Any questions?
I had a couple of questions, and I was kind of curious on kind of what you just brought up here on the end as far as how that would work with land versus land on a contract. If nothing was developed there on Kansas, how would that then switch back if nothing was ever done?
Well, it's how much importance you would place on getting this property back another time, whether you're satisfied with receiving the new tract of land in exchange for having somebody else own this property and developing it when they could develop it.
I don't want to speak for the commission, but for if the land exchange was the way you went, given that it's adjacent to land we have that we would begin planning for, I would say at that point there would be no reversion clause. It would be simply exchanging land and you move on down the road. That would be my recommendation only in how you would set it up. Not whether or not that's the staff's position on a choice or anything. I would just say if it's tied to the land, let's trade pieces of land and be done with it.
Well, and what was the value of that other piece? I know that he had proposed a value, but I know that Mike had spoken concerning what he considered. I mean, I'm talking about the whole acre, not 3/4 of it.
Mike just worked on what it was per acre based on what we purchased before, and it was about $9,000. So essentially what we told you during the pre-meeting was that the equivalence of what he was offering, if he was offering the full acre, was in equivalence to about $9,000. The individual that was here, Eric Smith, did say that he felt that particular piece, because we owned the rest, some of the other factors, that it would be worth more. Mike's calculation was simply based off of what we had purchased 3 other additional acres for.
I did the similar math, just kind of on that comparison with the corner, and just took the land value of that, and it came to around 13,000. So 9 to 13 was kind of what I came up with on that. So
The only difference is, would that significantly change the plans if we had that acre versus not on that for future development?
The Mayor and Commissioners, we haven't finalized any drawings yet of how that new facility would lay out in there, but obviously if that corner was not the city's property, we would have to build around that. And if, whatever would go in there, if it's a commercial, whatever it would be, is going to be fenced around on our side, as we would fence the rest of ours to secure the area. So that's all I would know at the present time, but it wouldn't be, I'm sure we could work around it, but at the same time, it certainly wouldn't be beneficial to us to have to do that. It'd be easier if it was just one big piece of property.
I had one more question. I know Eric is not here, but when I was doing a research on the land, it actually didn't list him as the owner on that parcel, so it listed someone else. So I didn't know if that map wasn't updated on the GIS when you can look up the parcel information, or if it has since been updated. So that was a question that I had.
And Commissioner, I don't have any information on that. You know, I think obviously, we're not gonna be able to let someone convey property to us if they don't own it, but we haven't gotten that far down the road. I do think that, I just wanna make one other point into what Matt said. In exchange, if your choice is to exchange the land for land, which, you know, I can understand if you choose that, but one of the things to consider is that the particular property, and the reason that you guys are doing this at 401 to 403 Kansas Avenue is because, and the reason we went about the bid process in this fashion, is because all of you hoped that it would be something other than a parking lot or other than a dirt spot. And so just thinking through and making sure that you all get out of it what you want. And if that's in exchange for a piece of land because that land is more valuable and at the end of the day more important than what happens at 401 to 403 Kansas Avenue, then I think exchanging that and not having to worry about getting it back down the road is what you should do. But if you have any concerns or you have any interest in something particular being there, then obviously exchanging something that you can exchange back is in your favor.
Well, I will say, I do appreciate that Mr. Alvarado really, I mean, the amount that he's offering is, I was surprised compared to the other bid. And, I mean, I would love to see this developed, and I mean, there wasn't a lot of, I mean, I'm sure it can be developed, and I mean, just making sure to follow through with the plans, I guess, and again, like, I don't want us to get this back and you have to do a bunch more work. So when we sell it, I think, I mean, there needs to be where we're not gonna receive the money back. I mean, the land is sold and it's sold if we do that, so. And why did we take it back last time? Was that in the contract?
That was, the commission actually asked for that. The commission wanted to see 401 to 403 get developed. And there is no way for us to guarantee whether you pick Eric Smith or whether you pick Enrique Alvarado's bid, there is no way for staff nor our attorney to guarantee that they're going to build what they say they're going to build. Our only protection in that was to work out in the contract that would be deeded back to us if it was not fully developed or mostly developed by a specified period of time. And so once we got to that specified period of time, then, you know, it became kind of the ball in our court to start having those discussions about what happens next. If you choose to remove that, if this commission says, no, we're gonna pick this one and we don't want this back, we have no interest in getting this back, we don't care if anything ever gets developed there, we wanna sell it and be done with it, then the contract's gonna look very different. We're going to take the proceeds or the land, we're gonna exchange that for 401 to 403 Kansas Avenue, and if nothing ever gets developed there, that'll be the end of it as far as all of you are concerned.
Any comments or questions, or if not, we'll stand for a motion if you don't. So.
I don't have any more questions.
I'll make a motion that we approve the $40,000 bid from Enrique Alvarado for the 401 to 403 Kansas Avenue.
I'll second.
So we have a motion, and then Commissioner Euler seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Alvarado.
Thank you. Little bitty bell. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 12B, the governing body is asked to consider and approve the request for proposal for the services of a consultant to implement public safety software to include computer-aided dispatch and a records management system for Finney County Emergency Service Units. Chief.
Thank you, Matt. Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm back before you again talking about RMS and CAD systems. The Garden City Police Department and the municipal court here in Garden City first began to use RMS and HT software as on a AS400 platform in 1993. Before that, I can tell you it was all paper. There was no computers. So
Wow.
we've come a long ways. The police department started utilizing the CAD system with mobile data computers over 20 years ago. The original computers include the software and hardware cost over $600,000 and was purchased through a grant in approximately 2002. We have been updating our computers through our budget process, and we believe our mobile data computers will be able to use in future projects as well. In 2015, the police department and municipal court converted from the AS400 platform with HT to a Windows server-based program through SunGuard, formerly HTE. The cost of the upgrade to SunGuard was approximately $1.2 million, and this included servers and equipment. The annual maintenance cost of SunGuard is approximately $120,000, and SunGuard has since been acquired by Superion and then resold and acquired by Central Square. Since the Windows server-based system implementation through now Central Square, the police department and municipal court has had several system issues. The software needs repair. When the software needs repair, a ticket is generated, not as a traffic citation, a ticket is generated through Central Square, and it's taken up to a year for some tickets to be addressed. There are no additional extended enhancements to the current system, and the only changes that will be made are to repair security issues. The electronic citation, which is traffic tickets, software does not allow supervisors oversight for quality assurances on citations issued by the officers. The software system is incompatible with other interfaces. The police department does use a global positioning service, GPS, through the MDCs, the computers in the vehicle. The Garden City Fire Department uses an emergency reporting system software as their RMS. This was purchased in 2002 with an annual cost of $3,665. The fire department RMS system is not compatible with the current CAD systems. Municipal Court is currently using Central Square One Justice RMS, which was purchased in 2015. The initial cost of the system was $72,000 with an annual maintenance cost of $15,800. The software problems are similar to what the police department has, along with having no capability for electronic signatures on court documents. It is estimated that it would cost $210,000 to accommodate an electronic signature in court documents. The Sheriff's Office has been using Interpol Solutions as its RMS platform for the past 20 years. The initial cost 20 years ago was $55,000 with an annual maintenance cost of $40,000. The RMS platform does not provide an interface with the CAD program currently used by the Police Department Communications Center. The Holcomb Police Department also uses the same RMS as the Sheriff's Office, and they purchased their platform in 2019 at a base cost of $12,000 and an annual support fee of $2,400. Holcomb Police Department does not have access to their CAD system as well, to our CAD system as well. Finney County Emergency Medical Services uses a cloud-based RMS through the state at no cost, and they also do not have access to CAD. Individuals, crimes, accidents, intelligence information, vehicle stops, suspicious persons, and other information are tracked by each law enforcement agency in Finney County. Finney County law enforcement officers have to go to their other respective records sections in Finney County to check on any corresponding cases that the agency may have relative to cases officers are investigating. This includes cases filed in municipal courts. Agencies without a CAD have to rely solely on Police Department Communications Center to be dispatched or provide further information on locations, individuals, or vehicles that may be paramount for first responders' safety. The directors, chiefs, and sheriffs of all of the Finney County Emergency Service Units have been meeting to discuss how to provide better services to the community. The primary discussion point was a joint RMS CAD system for all agencies to use. Furthermore, adding GPS to each vehicle is a safety issue for first responders and a proactive community safety response. When an emergency call comes in, police department communication centers could immediately identify the closest first responders need for the call and dispatch them if we have GPS in all vehicles. There has been no funding forecasted for this project. However, both police department and the Finney County Sheriff has set aside funds to accommodate hiring a consultant through this RFP to identify the best collaborative system. Police department and city staff are taking the lead on the project, but will work together collectively with the consultant and all end users. The RFP concept for this system was previewed to the City and County Commission during the joint meeting on October 20, 2020. The alternatives are to approve the RFP to identify a consultant to aid the Finney County Emergency Service Units to determine a collaborative RMS CAD system, which would include GPS, or deny the RFP and give staff further direction. The recommendation is, from staff is alternative one, to recommend or to identify a consultant to help us. In the past, we've never used consultants on this. I've been here I'm in my 37th year, and we've basically used our resources to try to identify how to do this. And when we did the McGrath study and we were trying to pick out that consultant, is when we learned that, hey, there are consultants that help us find the best service. So
That's good.
that's where we're at.
Right.
Have you checked with other departments or do you kind of have some in mind if we approve this? I mean,
Yes, Commissioner.
Okay.
Chief Beatty, have reached out to our partners in other departments, and I believe we have over a dozen recommendations for consultants to send this out to.
okay.
So so the fiscal note says 24,000, is that what your portion would be? The city's portion would be around 24,000, that's already in the budget, or would it be something that's above?
The police department has in the city budget $24,000 available to put towards the project, and the sheriff has assured me that he would have the similar funds if it would take that much to do the whole project, the consulting project.
And just for discussion purposes, Chief, can you ballpark the cost of a system, just generally, or maybe by comparison, what it cost last time we did it, just so the commission has a feel for
Sure.
the relationship between the RFP for consultant, what that dollar amount is in relation to what they're helping you design.
Okay, so what you're asking is the cost, what the potential cost of the project would be now?
Right. Correct.
Okay, thank you. I checked with Hayes Police Department. They are going through the same process. Chief checked with the Hayes Fire Department. They're going through the same process we are. And for their collaborative system in Hayes was $1.5 million.
Okay. But that connects all the same entities that you want to connect?
Yes.
Do you know what sort of annual maintenance fee it has on that?
I do not. Fortunately, Hayes had their project all ready to go, and then the Sparks funds came up, and the county decided to use their Sparks funds for that project.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what the maintenance cost is on it. Do you know, Chief, from? No. Okay.
Any
So-
other questions?
I'll make the motion to approve the RFP to help aid us in the Finney County Emergency Service Units to determine the collaborative RMS and the CAD system.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
So it's been seconded by Commissioner Ortiz. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Well, it's a good thing that consultants can be useful, so that's.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Chief, and thanks for working with the other agencies.
That's
too.
great, yeah, the collaboration is awesome.
Item C, the governing body is asked to consider and approve adding bicycle lane markings to other roadway markings that are completed annually.
afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. I just decided to put all my stuff on one meeting,
Yeah,
you know, just
obviously, yes.
knock it out all at once.
Check
Kidding.
mark it off.
This was totally by accident. So the Community Health Advisory Board, obviously, their work is to do things that are for the health of those in the community. And one of the things that they inquired about was bicycle lanes and their markings. And so we provided that to Public Works, and they did go out and take a look at the bike lanes and did confirm that they are faded. And that they are not on the annual markings along with other roadway markings. And so the Community Health Advisory Board voted and is asking the governing body to move forward with marking the bicycle lanes annually, and you'll see the map here of those bicycle lanes. They would like those marked annually, and they'd like them marked in the spring specifically because as it warms up, kids and families start using the bike lanes more often and continue to use them throughout the summer. So if they're done every spring, likely they'll be good until that next spring. So staff worked with the Public Works staff to determine that there is a $40,000 annual budget for roadway markings and that the bicycle lanes could be easily added to that budget without changing it much.
I guess, go ahead.
No, go ahead, I can ask a
I guess
question.
my question is, why would, I mean, we've already approved the bicycle lanes in the community. Why is it taking a commission action to have them painted, I guess?
Are they not do they not have a rotating basis?
They do not. They are not currently part of what are, I guess, considered specific roadway markings that would be included in that budget line item. And so in working through that, they would have been done on a as needed basis. And so as needed is, I guess, some speculation goes into that as what you might think when it's needed versus when I think it's needed. And obviously if there's dollars available. And Community Health Advisory Board, more what they're asking for in this scenario is that it become as important as a yellow line or a dotted white line, that it becomes something that we do regularly with everything else.
I think the question's fair for sure, Commissioner. And I think, 12 to 15 years after the fact of these becoming an experiment in sort of active living and accommodating more than just cars on streets, that you now have an advisory board that's sort of pushing it from a policy standpoint, saying, hey, this would be even stronger if the commission put their stamp on it. So I do think administratively we could have made this decision as well, but to date we hadn't, and the Community Health Advisory Board is advising you, which is what they do.
Sure.
To say, hey, we think this is important enough for you to give explicit direction to your staff to make sure this is included. So I think it gives it weight, and I think that's the appropriate role of an advisory board. Could have they given that advice to staff too? Yeah, and we could have done it, but who's to say 2 or 3 years down the road it doesn't suddenly come off of the painting list again? And I think there's a gravitas when the commission stamps something.
And I guess I had assumed that they were always being checked every year. I know they are faded, but I assumed that was on something on a continual basis. So that's why I was surprised that they weren't checked on an annual basis. So, but yeah, okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, with that, I'll stand for a motion.
I move that we approve the annual bicycle lane markings.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
So it's been seconded by Commissioner Euler. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Jennifer.
Jim, thanks to the advisory board.
Yeah.
The governing body is asked to consider and appoint 2 members to fill vacant seats on the Community Health Advisory Board.
Mayor and Commissioners, my last item. So I am super excited to be here on this item today. We have had 2 spots empty on our board for some time, and these 2 spots will complete our board, which is awesome. And we were super excited to receive both of them. One is from Adam Dries, and the other one is from Lisa Southern. And Adam did come to our board meeting, our board meeting last week, and he's very excited to participate and get involved in the community. And then Lisa wasn't able to attend, but also is excited about the Community Health Advisory Board. There's always applicants for advisory boards, but the Community Health Advisory Board has not gotten very many applicants, and so we were very excited to get both of these. And the recommendation from the Community Health Advisory Board is that both of them are approved.
I'll make a motion to approve Adam Dries and Lisa Southern to the 2 vacant positions.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Ortiz. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Jennifer.
Item E, the governing body is asked to reappoint John Hahn to a 3-year term on the Public Utilities Advisory Board. Mike?
Good afternoon again, Mayor and Commissioners. Mr. John Hahn is currently serving on the Public Utilities Advisory Board. Last year, when the commission restructured that board from 7 members to 5, all of the new terms were set. John's term was set for 1 year. His term will expire December 31st of 2020. John has requested that you consider reappointing him to a 3-year term as outlined in the bylaws. We didn't receive any other applications that directly wanted to serve on this board, so that's where we're at, and you can either appoint him to a 3-year term or not, or advise us to do something different.
Any questions?
I move that we appoint John Hahn to a 3-year term on the Public Utilities Advisory Board starting January 1st, 2021.
It's been moved by Commissioner Dick. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Euler. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thanks, Mike.
The only other item that
Thank you, John.
remains on the agenda from a business standpoint is the consent agenda. If you don't wish to pull anything off of that to discuss separately, the appropriate motion would be to approve F1 through 6.
I move that we approve items F1 through F6 on the consent agenda.
So it's been moved that we approve the items on the consent agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Ortiz. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. So all we have left is commission reports. So Commissioner Dick, you're up first today.
All right. First thing, I'd like to give a thanks to the Mayor Unruh and everybody else who participated in the COVID town hall that was hosted in conjunction with St. Catherine Hospital, Liverville, Finney County Economic Development. A lot of good information. Dr. Carlin was on with the school district. Dr. Ruda was on. Genesis, Julie with Genesis was on. Live-Well, I mean, a bunch of organizations talked about what they're doing, what the current state of COVID is, what they're doing to prevent it, and kind of the status. It's really good. It's on Facebook. If you go, I believe the main place it's hosted is on the Finney County Economic Development Facebook page, but it's shared. I mean, you can probably find it on many other locations as well. But go check that out if you have any questions about that. And thanks for the mayor and commissioners that talked at that. Likewise with that, there's going to be, or actually I think they might have put it out today, is the Finney County Health Department put out a new COVID warning system. I think they put it out today. Go check that out. It's a really quick way to kind of assess what the current warning level is, what kind of precautions you need to take in our county, and it has 4 different colors from green to yellow to orange to red. We're very, very red right now. So make sure you check that out, and I think they are working on a complete new dashboard as well to make it a little bit easier for people to find the information and do a little bit of cleanup on behind the scenes with that. Similarly, like that, again, like we always need to say is with those essential workers and teachers, please just give them the extra appreciation and compliments and stuff like that where not everybody pays attention to how much time it takes to make this all work during a pandemic. So if you have somebody like that in your life, make sure you tell them you appreciate how much work that they're taking to make sure our community runs smoothly. Because it doesn't just happen. I mean, they have to put in the extra work. Finally, like Sheila said with Downtown Vision, remember to shop local this Christmas. It's going to be vital that we put the extra effort into shopping local and giving those local dollars to our own community. It's going to be very tempting to use something like Amazon. But like I said last time, Amazon isn't sponsoring our local sports teams. They don't live here. So make sure you take that extra step to shop locally whenever possible. And finally, very much like that, there's a lot of good national places you can donate on Giving Tuesday, but please consider Match Day with the Western Kansas Community Foundation. So many good organizations that are on that. So if you can donate locally, and we have an opportunity with that Match Day, that every little donation actually gets more donations added. So a $5 donation could turn into a $7 donation or $8 donation. Every little bit helps. So make sure if you have the ability to donate locally, and that Match Day is really a good way to do that on Giving Tuesday. So that's it.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Cessna.
Good pre-meeting this morning on where we're at on the goals and how our community is continuing to grow and become a regional hub for Western Kansas. Again, all of the proclamations, too numerous to really kind of reiterate, but just, great time to be in the community. Wanted to highlight American Education this week is going on. A number of great events happening. Thursday evening is the Crystal Apple Awards presentation by the Garden City Area Chamber of Commerce. This highlights 6 outstanding teachers from Finney County that have gone through an extensive process that every year 3 teachers are named Crystal Apple Teachers, and it's very prestigious. This is actually the 25th year of this event. So this year went from going to do the regular banquet to social distancing. Now it's going virtual, pretty much like everything else due to the COVID rate in our community and everything. So it'll be on Facebook under the Garden City Area Chamber of Commerce. But again, like Commissioner Dick said, all the frontline workers and people that are out there supporting and making it work. It's very stressful at this time, and we should think of ways of supporting them and just keeping them in our thoughts and prayers at this time. Other question I had as I was out visiting, between campus and the bypass on Spruce Street, there's a huge section. They had the road closed for quite a while, and there's this huge section of the road that's really rough and unpaved. And I was behind a number of cars that it was kicking up quite a bit of dust and creating some, and then the wind the other day was moving quite a bit of dirt. I know they put some screening down, but do we have a way of repaving that at any time?
Yeah.
I
That
see
was-
Mark.
that
Yeah,
was-
Mike, you were-
Yeah, that was from a water line bust.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that we have been, we're very aware of how rough it is and the dust that's kicking up. So we've been trying to go down and smooth it up and keep a little bit of water on it to keep the dust down. We had to take all that asphalt out because it had popped up from when the water main broke. But what we're planning to do now is they're planning to open up their asphalt plants either this week or next week to a contractor to pave the Lowe's parking lot and some other things. So our intention is to try to get in there and take that temporary material out and repave the street. And that will take care of that. But yeah, it is pretty rough and it's pretty dusty.
It's rough.
Yeah.
It's surprising,
Okay.
yeah.
No, thank you very much.
I think, and I believe there were some updates, social media and otherwise, when that road was shut down, and it was really, the choice was leaving it completely closed or reopening it with some pretty crude material until such time as we could do a temporary pavement.
Sure. But, I mean, usually when we have a water break, it's a little area, and this is a huge section.
This was not a usual water break.
Right,
This, within a matter of minutes, took the entire width of the road, didn't it, Mike? I mean, it was
Yes, it did.
like sinkhole
Well,
level.
I noticed that it was closed for quite some time, and it was a big area, but,
Yeah.
and when it reopened, I drove through there because I had to get to another vicinity, and it was like, wow, and there were cars in front of me, and it was rough too. I mean,
Yeah, the original hole caused by the water main break was probably almost as big around as right in this general area in the middle of the
Goodness.
street.
okay.
Then then that has to be compacted. Of course, we want to make sure that it's compacted well before we put a final surface. But the water, when it broke, what it does, it comes up, it hit the asphalt underneath, and it went to the sides between the asphalt and the dirt, washed a bunch of the dirt out underneath the asphalt, then it finally popped up. And so, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. It happens, right? Hopefully not very often, though.
That's right, it was expensive. Is that everything?
That's all I had. Thank
Okay,
you.
sounds great. Commissioner Ortiz.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd just like to echo kind of what Commissioner Dick had said. The COVID information on the Finney County Economic Development was excellent. They did put out a lot of information. I like the fact that they are just banding together and putting as much as possible out to educate the community. So with the washing of hands and watching your distance and wearing a mask. So I appreciate all of their efforts on that and everybody who participated. It was great. One of the things that I didn't see on the report, which I did get a chance to go out, was golf course. They are doing some really major progress out there, and it's exciting to see. I did set up a tee time for Saturday at 2:30. I looked at the weather. The wind was supposed to come in at 5 or 6, so I was hoping I can get 9 holes in before then. It started right when I got out there. So.
Wow, what a mess.
But yeah, the golf course is really looking nice, and that crew out there has done an amazing job in getting that done. And for the cost, for the savings that they implemented into just growing their own grass and moving it around to the greens out there, excellent job by the staff and all those involved. Also like to just congratulate the Education Week, those participants for the Crystal Apple. But also all the other teachers as well, just going through this time with COVID. So let's not forget those kids who are at home and struggling with just getting homework done and schoolwork done. And I know I'm struggling with it because I flunked 4th grade, so I'm not good in 4th grade math. 5th, 6th grade math I can do, but 4th grade math is not good for me. So. But yeah, support downtown, support Garden City. Lastly, I like the fact that this is Family Week. I'd like to think of it as the end of the year family for all families. We started at my house just kind of a competition for just being together at home more often than the past years. But it's also a good time to just get involved with your family and stay healthy. We kind of just created a challenge, and it's a game that we play now. Whenever we're all in one room, one person can say, hit the deck, and we all have to do 5 push-ups, 5 setups. So just, some exercises that we can plan out with, and we do that with my family. So I'd like to maybe challenge any family or all families to just do a little exercise and do some, or family games or something, rather than, I know there's not a lot on TV nowadays. You've probably watched all the Netflix shows and things by now, so some of those games with families is fun to do. So I think that's it. Yeah, great job on the presentation for the pre-meeting. That's exciting to see growth in Garden City. So keep up the good work. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Euler.
Well, ditto what the other 3 commissioners have said so far, but I always think it's exciting to see people serving on advisory committees, especially when we get new people to apply, and to be able to approve the 2 people to apply for the Health Advisory Board is just amazing to me, because I was looking through the names, and there are some people who are serving on several. And while that's great, it's always nice to sort of expand that pool. And serving on an advisory committee is an excellent way to learn a little bit more about what goes on with your city government. It's also an opportunity to really kind of engage with policymakers, but then also with department heads and with city staff. And you can really see, all of the work that goes into everything that we do to work together. And so I just want to encourage more people to look at an advisory board or even look on a board for a nonprofit, and just that community engagement piece is just so important. And we've certainly seen that play out in the last 3 weeks, just that engagement piece and how important it can be. I just wanted to thank Sheila with Crane with Downtown Vision for everything that she's done in the last couple of years to be able to bring it to the level that it's at. And I know that Downtown Vision is an important partner with the city and certainly has done well under her tenure. So I just wanted to make sure that we mentioned that. That's all.
Wow. Okay, so I just want to, first of all, I want to say thank you to the commission for the last, we've been together the last 3 weeks, so I don't think that's going to happen again. But I just want to say thank you for your attention and thoughtfulness. I know that we've had a lot of information and the most incredible community engagement that I can remember on my short time on the commission, and so that was really exciting. So I just want to thank you for your time and patience getting through some long, long meetings. I also want to say thank you to the Western Kansas Community Foundation is near and dear to my heart. Match Day at $75,000 is up for match dollars. There's so many great organizations, as Commissioner Dick said, but I'll tell you, if you cannot find your favorite organization, maybe the Western Kansas Community Foundation and their operation fund could be part of what you want to donate to. I do want to say thank you to Carol Davidson and Lana Duvall. I'll tell you, we've seen not only the goals met, but just totally exceeded and just slammed out of the water. We are really doing well in lots of areas, and so living in Garden City is really a blessing. I want to congratulate, as Commissioner Sisson talked about, the Crystal Apple. The people who are nominated go through a very rigorous process. I'm sure this year it's even harder just with trying to figure how that looks, and so being the 25th year, I'm excited about just, everything that's happening with our educators. The town hall meeting that Finney County Economic Development and several other partners put on was really well attended. The information was incredible, and so if you get a chance, there's a lot of real information that's going to be handy and upcoming on Thanksgiving, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. But Andy Flimmer, who from St. Catherine's Hospital, I'll tell you, there's some gestures that the city made and other people have made for the hospital and their staff that have meant a lot to them. And so, it's really those small, simple acts of kindness, having the fire department drive by with the trucks and having the electric department with the big flag and just really saying thank you and having them really recognize that they're heroes. He mentioned that several times and what a morale booster that is. These are the people who are working 12 and 14-hour shifts, often go home exhausted, come back the next day and have to do it again. So I just wanted to say thank you, and I thank you to Andy for really providing some really vital information about what's going on at St. Catherine's Hospital. It's really something we hadn't known before. I do want to say thank you to Commissioner Dwayne Drees, the chairman of the County Commission, for their support of the city ordinance. I think that they really, when they wrote out, that really said that, hey, we're in this together. I know that Commissioner Dave Jones came and said, hey, no matter what, we really work together as a commission, as a community, as a county. So I just wanted to say thank you to that. There is a run coming up on Thanksgiving. I think it's still on. So after you eat, we need to run before you eat. So then you can run. So there is Thanksgiving coming up. Sometimes I think this year, as ever before, all of the holidays have kind of come and gone. But Thanksgiving is one holiday that we really want to make sure that we observe. There's so much to be thankful for living in Garden City and also having families who are healthy. And Commissioner Ortiz talked about being home and having a lot of fun with your family. So this is really the year to do that. And with that, there was some really great information that was presented last night on the town hall about ways to really have a safe Thanksgiving. So I just want to mention that you can pay attention to that and go from there. So with that, I think that's all, and we'll call this meeting adjourned. Okay, this is a
Yep, you're right. Thank you, Commissioner. This is from Mandy Phillips. My name is Mandy Phillips. I want to thank you for taking the time to read this. Our family has been affected by COVID. Our family was always careful and avoided mass gatherings, etc. I was so fearful for my daughter Aspen, who is 23 years old. She had a severe seizure disorder and a compromised immune system. Our family all tested positive for COVID almost 2 weeks ago. This included my 3-year-old, my 23-year-old, and my husband Bill, who was 48, and myself. We were all starting to feel better. Who would have known that last Thursday my life would be turned upside down? My husband was not feeling well still, so went to bed about 6:30. I stayed up and was watching TV. Around 10, I went to bed. I noticed that Bill was very close to the edge of the bed. I tapped him several times to get him to move over, and I couldn't. I then got out of bed to try to get him to respond. At this time, I called EMS. They worked on him for 20 minutes. They got a good pulse and heartbeat. He had several doses of epinephrine. My final goodbye was them doing compressions as they left. God was with our son as my 3-year-old was on the couch the whole time and never woke up. He died shortly after they got to the hospital. Not only did I lose my husband and my best friend that night, and my children lost their daddy, I also lost the opportunity to adopt the twin boys. I also lost the opportunity to adopt the twin boys my husband and I were in the final process of doing. My 3-year-old does not understand. Last night, he cried for 30 minutes. I had to explain that he couldn't call Daddy on the phone. Aspen is lost and does not understand why Daddy won't come back. I know masks are a pain, but truly it can save lives. Thank you for your time. If at all possible, can this please be read at your meeting tomorrow? Again, that was Mandy Phillips.
Thank you, Matt. So I would like to take a few moments. I want to look at some of this. I didn't get a chance on the break, and then we can begin our discussion. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I do want to make sure. Is there anyone else that would like to say something during the public, during the open?
I would like to say one thing.
Okay.
It's about
You have to come to the mic, and if you'll say your name, that's
my
great.
name's Mark Gillen.
Okay.
I just want to address the size of a micron. I don't know if you guys are familiar how big a micron is. So if you take a strand of your hair, lay it sideways, you can put 60 microns on a strand of hair. And a virus is 0.125. N95 mask only works on 1 micron. How in the world are you going to stop it? You understand what I'm saying? We're talking about 1,000 times smaller than a 1. You can put 60 on a strand of hair. So you're worried about a cloth mask catching a 0.125 virus? No way. That's all I'm going to add. Make sure you guys do that.
All right, thank you, Mark. Okay, so I want to take just a moment to look over this information, and then we'll go ahead and begin our discussion. So.
Commissioners, do you need additional time, or are you ready to move forward in our meeting?
Ready?
Okay. You ready? Okay. So with that, we're on item 3, the consideration of ordinances and resolutions. Now again, we can call for the resolution in an open discussion, if that's the best way to do that. So we can make a motion, we can have a second, or else we can have a discussion. So I think part of the proper way would be have a motion and then a second, and then we can actually go ahead and open it for discussion.
Do we have an ordinance number on this?
2884, 2020.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Ordinance number 2884-2020.
Okay, with that, I'll call for a motion.
I move that we approve ordinance number 2884, 2020, an ordinance to require the wearing of face mask coverings in the city of Garden City, Kansas.
So we have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and then it's been seconded, and so now we're open for discussion and before we'll take the vote. So we'll go ahead and open it for discussion. I know we've had a lot of information. I know that all of us have received lots of emails and texts and messages, and so a lot of input on this. And so again, I just want to make sure we open it for discussion. We'll discuss this completely before we actually call for a vote.
You want to freeform the discussion, or do you want to go around the horn, or-
Let's freeform it first, and then we'll go ahead and maybe ask for closing comments. I think that would probably be the most, so that way we can kind of get an idea of where we're maybe thinking after our discussion, so.
I can
Well,
start, I guess. Or you want to go?
Well, I was just gonna say that legal counsel provided us, I know we made a motion on this,
Right.
but legal counsel provided just before the meeting, we might discuss if we want to add to section 4 of the exemptions, item L, persons engaged in religious activities protected by the First Amendment to the United States Constitution, including but not limited to worship services. If we want to add that to this, that might be a good starting point, and then if we want to move forward from there.
Yeah,
I think that's a good addition.
If the,
I'd be open
I
to
would
that.
recommend to, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay,
So
Does
your
it mean
motion,
that
your
change the
motion
motion
is
then?
to
Approve it
approve
with that
the
additional.
ordinance as presented to you and include therewith subsection L
right,
in section 4.
right.
Section 4.
Okay.
Thank you, I forgot all about that.
Okay, sorry. So Commissioner Ortiz, you said that you would like to,
Yeah, no, that's fine. I know there was a lot of just miscommunication, and there was a lot of things taken out of context where, I mean, I do the same thing sometimes. It's just the way that we read things. And when a lot of these things are discussed out in the open, it's easier to understand, and I think that was the whole reason why we asked for this meeting, was to just get everything out in the open. Going through some of the items on the mandate, to me is still a little bit misinterpreted. Like for instance, I'll just go ahead and start with section 1, item B. Public space means an indoor or outdoor space or area that is open to the public. This does not include any private residential property or private offices, or the workspace that are not open to customers, clients, patients, or other public visitors. I know that's a definition, but then going down to section 2, item E, maybe a little bit contradicting there, while outdoors and public spaces, and unable to maintain a 6-foot distance between individuals, with only infrequent or incidental moments of closer proximity. Out of context, it kind of just puts the impression on, well, if we're out at the park and we're playing, do we have to wear masks all the time because we're passing somebody along the sidewalk? I understand that can be taken out of context that way. So, and then, of course, going back to item B on section 1, it's just because it says outdoor, does that mean public? Or does that mean like everywhere on the street? As soon as I cross the property line of my house, do I need to put it on? I know there's just a lot of things that are just up in the air, kind of. It's tough to write something or type something so that everybody can follow and easy, you know, take it the right way. And I think we are trying as a commission to help everyone, and I know that's it's tough. I've got family members in my household, and I've got family members outside the home, and I got friends that are talking with me both ways. So it is really hard, and I don't know all the answers. I don't know if, you know, when it describes face masks, does it talk about gaiters? Because those are a lot of that sports players wear all the time, are the gaiters, so it doesn't say anything about that. It's tough. I don't like the word mandate. I get that we could probably do something in order to help out, communicate, educate. I don't know if there's a good way to do it.
I do want to point out that we specifically stayed away from the word mandate and the word mask.
Okay.
So it's a face covering, and it's a requirement. So I mean, again, I know those words are both are triggering
Exactly.
words. And so when you talked about gaiters, I know that when this was being crafted, that we wanted to make sure and definitely stay away from any type of a mandate or a mask.
Right, and there's a definition of what a face covering is in section 1, part A.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I took, simply wrapped around the lower face, considering that to be a gaiter.
I would too. So.
I just like to highlight some points that I kind of circled throughout, you know, everybody talking here today. And, you know, one of the questions, or we did have what started on the 10th or something about the 3 Ws. The 6th through the, okay. I don't know if we put a stop to that. We didn't have the authority to actually stop that so it is running its course right now up until the 16th, I believe. But I think that's a great way to send out a message to the community, and, you know, if it requires the help of the community, I think that would be a good way for every individual who, especially, you know, signed their name on a petition or came to the meeting or had a, you know, different opinion of things, for all to just jump on the same bandwagon and make this as far as just an educational movement, so that we can educate people without such a big ruckus. It's the way my feeling is, I guess. Also, there's another one that another one that I circled was the fact that there's no education given by, other than the fact I heard vitamin D was about the only thing that was mentioned today on how to help your immune system or how to fight the disease. I know there's probably other things out there, but I just haven't heard any of that stuff, and that's probably something that the medical doctors here can probably come up and offer. So another one that I kind of circled was the fact that there wasn't, one person, I think it was Lisa, who, you know, she talked about there's really no hard evidence to secure or to basically make her feel comfortable that that's the right thing to do. And I can hear both sides. I can hear, you know, the fact that I'm not saying masks don't help at all. It's 0%. But I believe it's my personal opinion to say I'm helping, by me speaking right now, I'm helping to just do what I can to not distribute so many, you know, particles or virus or whatever it is. So I'm not a doctor either, but I feel like if it's just an educational movement and everybody gets on board, I don't think it should be enforcement to wear it. I think I know the stores, I appreciate all the local stores coming in and local businesses coming to talk, but that's something that we're here to do, is to help them. We're also here to help the medical professional teams to keep them from being so stressed at work. But how do you do that? I'm for and I'm against. I mean, I don't know. It is tough. It's a tough decision, but we're up here to make those tough decisions, and I guess I'll do whatever it takes to help.
So,
I mean, I have a bunch of stuff, but I mean, I feel the same way as Commissioner Ortiz, that it is a tough decision because it's such a new, I mean, it's not like we're talking about chickenpox or something like that, where we have mountains of studies. Some of the things that I'd like to point out, I was looking at the survey that Downtown Vision did and sent out. And one of the questions in there is, for each of the following changes to business operations, changes will make you more or less likely to shop or dine there. And one of those questions is masks worn by all customers in the store. So if everybody in a store is wearing a mask, would you be more or less likely, or no change, to shop there? 51% of the people said they'd be more likely to shop there. 31% of people had no difference if people were wearing masks or not wearing masks, didn't make a difference. 18% of the people said that they'd be less likely to shop there. So that's kind of we can kind of see that there's a difference of opinion between people are in a place that has masks more than, we'll just say half of people are more likely to shop there. Third of people doesn't matter either way. And then that 18% would be less likely to shop there. Now, if we go on further and you go look at the actual comments at the end, and there was an open-ended question. That open-ended question was, thank you for your business for downtown. Please share with us any other ideas and suggestions that make your shopping dining experiences more comfortable as we navigate this time. So nothing to do about masks at all. Just open-ended, just the final question. Tell us if you want anything else. If you look at the breakdown of comments in there, we have almost 50-50, actually a little bit more anti-mask than pro-mask. So remember that one question where are people more likely to shop at a place if they have a mask? 50% said yes, and if we take that with the neutral, we have 80% people saying yes. But the comments are 50-50. So there's a disconnect between feeling this way and commenting this way. And if we take it down by the actual percent, the people that said that they were less likely to shop at a store versus how many comments they had, about 1 out of every 2.5 people that's in that non-mask side left a comment. Whereas if we're talking about the people that masks are more encouraging to shop there, about 1 out of every 14 people. So you can see the difference in ratio and responses when we have public solicitation of things. We're getting about, for every 1 comment, it's representing about 2.5 people that are on the anti side, where 1 comment is about 14 people on the pro side. And this, again, this was done September. Downtown Vision, I mean, we're kind of in a different position than we are now. I mean, this was really to get prepared for what should the downtown businesses do for that sort of thing. And a similar question that's, I mean, only tangentially related to this. If we look at all the staff wearing masks, we have 95% of people are positive on staff. So we have those kind of things coming from a public standpoint. Some other things, I mean, my day job is strategic analyst, which is taking massive piles of data and synthesizing it all, and then coming to conclusions is the best course of action for specifically usually our economy, but whatever. So some of the things I've looked at, I only looked at the research from September on. And if you look at older research, we really have, in any time when we have research, it starts where we're like, we don't really know what's going on here, but as we go, it wiggles towards what is the overall truth. And if you look at stuff that's older than September, we do have some that wiggling. Like we said, I think Dr. Rupp submitted a paper, it's from the Pediatric Journal about the ineffectiveness of wearing masks. But if you go look through the actual citations on there, there's been retracted papers, there's been corrected papers that really do lead to that paper just being out of date. So some of the things that I've seen when looking at just the recent studies, one thing they're finding is that 10 to 20% of the people are causing 80% of the infections. And I really wish I kind of had a safety net of a doctor to make sure I'm interpreting everything correctly here. But so when we look at the research, a small percentage of people is providing most of the infections in the area. And this isn't the way the normal, like this was, the paper is actually comparing how COVID is getting spread versus how the flu spreads. And the spread of flu is more one-to-one, kind of like we'd expect, where if I have it, you have it, then you get it. This isn't the case. I actually find that a lot of people aren't spreading COVID. There's just few people that are spreading it to a lot of people at super spreader events, one way or the other. They find that unlike most other illnesses, right now they feel that the time when people are most infectious is right before, the 24 hours before you start showing symptoms. So the advice of, well, just avoid crowds if you feel bad, that doesn't really contain everything right now. We're learning that you have to avoid crowds right before you start feeling bad, which is going to be hard without good contact tracing. If we had contact tracing that was widespread, and that would be pretty easy to do. Say, oh, you came in contact with somebody 2 or 3 days ago, you need to remove yourself even though you don't feel bad yet, because you're at the point where you're going to be. But I don't think we have the capacity as a community to stop the most infectious type of people right now. They are seeing a very high concentration of a relationship between the viral load and how severe an infection is. So how much dose you get of the virus at the time that you get infected by the virus has a strong correlation with how severe that is, and in specifically the chances of going into ICU. And so that leads to part of the reasons why looking at the research here, the masks actually come true. Because like everybody says, it's not perfect. I mean, everybody, all the research, it's not perfect, but it does reduce. And specifically, it reduces when the person who is infected is out. It doesn't necessarily help that much if you're not infected, trying to prevent, me wearing this right now isn't protecting everybody from there getting me sick. It's if I'm sick, and I'm gonna start feeling symptoms tomorrow, not getting everybody else here sick. And the way that works is the minimum size of, so most of the virus spread comes not from individual virus particles, it's from viruses inside droplets of water. And they looked at the research on what's the smallest size of water particle that can go, that has virus, and it's, hold on, this is why, 4,700 nanometers. So the size of an average COVID particle, not just any virus, because viruses are huge and small. The normal size of a normal COVID particle is 100 nanometers. We're talking, and the smallest that the virus can get into a droplet and get out is 4,700 nanometers. When you go look at cloth masks, that is right where the holes are, where some do get, there are some that are too small, some that are large, but there's also a paper, sorry, I just got louder, that goes through and measures all the different kinds of homemade masks with other masks. And it is true, wearing a bandana is not gonna do anything. Wearing a knitted mask, you could try. And obviously N95s and surgical had the most reduction of that viral load out. So and this was from September 2nd. So we see that, the idea is to prevent the super spreader events from people before they're symptomatic, which really there's not too many other ways that we can do. And again, doing the 3 W's, washing your hands and social distancing and stuff like that. The other thing that just came out 2 days ago on November 9th was looking at people that are COVID positive, and it's overall all psychiatric disorders. So this is looking at hospital patients that are COVID positive versus influenza, skin infection, a whole bunch of other things. And there's a couple things, psychiatric illnesses up, insomnia is up, and stuff like that. So people with COVID have these higher rates of these mental disorders. But the one that really stuck out to me when I was looking at this is dementia. And this is developing dementia within 90 days of getting a COVID positive result. We're talking in patients over 65, 1 out of 60 people who test positive that are over 65 develop dementia within 90 days. And that's, it's not even close to any other, it's not happening in influenza, it's not happening like that if you're in the hospital for a skin infection or or some of those other things. So there's some other, it's not just, am I okay? I didn't die, so I'm fine. We're finding right now, I mean, there's psychiatric problems that are significantly tied to becoming COVID positive. And it doesn't happen with other things like that. I have a bunch more stuff. I think I've probably talked long enough. I'll let
We can
somebody, right,
yeah,
right.
It's not that you have to be one and done, so that's.
Yeah, well, you got your chance, so.
Right, that was it. If I, no,
You'll get
I'll
lots of
shut up.
chances. You'll get lots of chances, yeah.
So to kind of go off what Shannon was saying, I know that, I mean, I still don't know which way I'm going to vote, but there's a front line of health workers that are dealing with this every single day, but there's also a second line, and that's where I deal with people every single day. Those are the people who have tested positive, they're quarantined, and they need food, or they need water, or they need medical care, or they need something, because they don't have the support system to be able to provide those things for them. And so that's when I get a phone call asking for help. And it's my job to make sure that I give people the support that they need in order to be successful. And what's been interesting since the start of COVID is how I'm getting phone calls from people who are apologizing for asking for help. Because Catholic Charities has found that over 60% of the people who are calling them asking for rental assistance or asking for food assistance, this is the first time they've called for help. And so that's what I do every day, is I work with people who are on that. And it's, so to me, I feel like, and I said this last week, that the mask mandate has sort of, the mask mandate debate has sort of forced us to lose focus of what we're trying to do, and that is to decrease COVID in this community. And it does have an economic impact, because a lot of these people are calling and they're asking me, well, what am I going to do about paying my rent or feeding my family? What's the choice that I have to make? And yes, there are services out there, but again, the second line is more of the long game and helping these people to become successful and to remain employed so that they can feed their families. And so again, it kind of comes back to stopping the spread, prevention, figuring out what we can do in order to get our positivity rate down. And we've all heard that masks are not the be-all to end-all. It's not going to be the magic bullet that all of a sudden stops COVID, but the education piece is still very important. So that's why I really appreciate the health department and their campaign to challenge people to wear their masks, watch their distance, wash their hands. And a mask is one piece of that, and being able to help with slowing that spread. And it also, you know, if you think about it from the perspective of, you know, people who are over 60 who are developing other situations.
Sorry, I couldn't hear what.
Siri wants to.
I think she wants to know what you want to.
But, you know, if you think about, again, that second line and dealing with people's long-term effects of making sure that they can get employed and making sure that we can keep our businesses open, keep our schools open, that really needs to be part of this discussion as well. You know, the one side of me is, yeah, I think if we can wear a mask for 30 days or 60 days and help slow that spread, that's great. Then on the other hand, if we have half the population who isn't going to abide by that, then what good is it? That's where I'm at right now. So.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I guess really would like to thank everybody that did email, call, comment, stop me. You know, we really do value that input from all of our citizens. I'd like to thank all the people that came to our last City Commission meeting and spoke, and to this City Commission special meeting to speak about this topic. It's you know, we're in the middle. You know, we said we're at 41%. It's increasing. So what do we do? That was the question. What do we do? You know, I walked out last night and we went shopping. You hit the front of every store that we went into, and it says, before you enter this store, you have to wear a mask. There are requirements. I know I'm not going to try to bring the city into this, but we have increased the mask the requirements for the city. I know the county has. The school district has increased its level of operation due to conditions in the community. But where do we stand at this point? I know it's going to be probably increasing. I mean, we're in the middle of the fire is the problem. And how do we stop that? You know, we're all wearing masks right now, but is that going to help stop? And the question was asked, but nobody knows. And that's where I'm having an issue. Where is it starting? Where is it spread? Where is the cases spreading? Because everybody that has spoken to, or that I've talked to, or has talked to me, it's like, well, it's not happening here, it's not happening here. We know there's a few cases, but it's not spreading here. So how do we work to alleviate that? Because, yeah, I agree. We need to stay in school, because that was the other comments that everybody had, that, you know, we need to keep our businesses open. It's very important to keep our businesses open, and it's vitally important, and it was strongly suggested that we, you know, keep our schools open, because they do work hand in hand. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, so thank you. So some comments. I know when the county started way back when, it seems like COVID's been going on forever, but I mean, they had the 3 goals of slowing the spread, also making sure that we didn't overwhelm our healthcare system. And the third one was to limit the number of deaths. And so the thing that I was thinking about, and so we didn't hear as many medical providers this time as we did last time, but you know, when I get sick or when I have issues or health issues, I go to the experts. And so here's my struggle. When experts come to us and they're saying, hey, these are the things that are happening, here's what's happening in our hospital, here's what's happening in our businesses, here's what's happening with my patients, then it's hard for me not to either do I trust the experts, or am I saying, you know, well, I'm sorry, that's your opinion. So, you know, when you think about, especially in the school district, I think I agree with Commissioner Cessna, and I mean, probably all the rest, is that there is this tie between economic and also the school system. So if parents come home from work to have to take care of their kids, I don't want latchkey kids. I mean, that's, I definitely don't want that. But if you have no one taking care of your kids and we have to close school, then what does that do to the economics? Do they get COVID pay? I mean, because again, no one has COVID, but simply the fact that, you know, we can no longer up to school safely. You know, a lot of the medical testimony, I really rely heavily on local experts. I think it's great, all the other things, but when their local experts are coming and saying, this is what's happening in our county, I want to make sure I pay attention to that. I don't live in any other county. I live in Finney County, I live in Garden City, and so I'm really putting a lot of weight on that. It does concern me that, and that's why I won't use the mandate word. I mean, because if there are a group of people who say, you know, under no circumstance, no matter what, then really, are we doing anything good? I mean, are we just, again, offering up something that, again, gives people an opportunity to not be lawful? I don't believe if we did put an ordinance in place that most people would say, you know, I'm not going to do that, absolutely not, because just like when we were discussing the fireworks, I mean, this idea of, I do believe that we live in a lawful society. It's hard. I started off early on without thinking that masks were that valuable, but I have a parent who is up for a transplant, and if she's called to go to a transplant and she has COVID, then she could miss that opportunity. So do I take that risk or don't I take that risk? And you know, really, that opportunity might not come up for another year or so, and so I'm not going to miss that opportunity. So, you know, there's a lot of personal things involved with COVID, as well as the public things And, you know, being a public official, it isn't easy. I mean, there's been information both sides, both ways. And, you know, as far as when and where I wore my mask has changed a lot, especially with the increase of COVID. I certainly, my fear would be to get someone else sick, because really how I can manage myself, if someone gets me sick, then, you know, me again, I do have a responsibility to keep myself healthy, make sure I sleep, which has not been as easy lately. And then to be responsible for, you know, my overall health. That's why, you know, exercise is so important. But again, me causing someone else to get sick, that is what's really hard for me. And then, so a lot of people act like the mask is something that I used to act like the mask was something that was being done to me. But I really had to change my whole thinking and saying that, you know, really the mask is something I'm doing for somebody else. And my goal is really not to get anybody else sick, and to make sure that I'm taking care of all of those around me so that they can go to work and that they can go to these different, I love that the local places of exercise are open. This is important. I think it's an important stress reliever. I mean, I think it's an important place for people to gather and congregate. Are masks the perfect solution, or are they part of the solution? Yes, they are. Are they the perfect solution? I don't think we have one, and I know that all of our medical providers have said that. But that's kind of where I'm at, and then so we'll go around again, and if you have further comments. I'm like most of you, I walked into this not really having an opinion. I mean, I have some thoughts, and I have some, you know, things that I would like to protect, people I want to protect. And does the mask, does a face covering requirement, does that protect them, or does that protect others? You know, I don't know. If it's not followed and it creates more community division, then that's not going to work for me.
I would just like to say that I'd like to thank the community agencies that are working together to
I do
promote
too.
the 3 Ws that they're promoting, wearing masks. You know, they saw the information, and that's what we heard a lot about too, is people not knowing. All of a sudden, it just came up where the county got the mask. Somebody suggested a mask ordinance to them. They didn't have anything in front of them. Then we got asked to look at a mask ordinance, and then people got interested. They started seeing numbers. They started understanding what was happening in the community. And that was what was mentioned to me quite a bit in discussions and phone calls, was they didn't realize until, you know, now what really was happening, until we got into this discussion and they got numbers, and somehow we need to, I don't know how, but figure out how to get that information out to keep it going so people understand what's happening. So if it does rise or if it does go down, people are informed.
Right. Yeah.
So it's not this lurching type of thing that, you know, all of a sudden it's like, well, I didn't know, and now all of a sudden now everybody's informed because we've got all this information out there. So
yeah, I think
I'm grateful that the organizations are working together like we did when this whole thing started out. You know, the longest spring break in the history of school. You know, we went on spring break and we didn't come back until we started school again. So, but we had a coalition built. It kind of started and then it kind of eased off, and now we're you know, all the organizations and everybody's now coming together, and I think everybody's pulling in one direction again, trying to make sure, you know, as a community, you know, we stay open, we stay viable, you know, because we are a regional hub. I mean, the medical professionals, people come to Garden City for care, you know, and people come to Garden City because we have the businesses we do, and come to downtown, you know. So it is vital that we all pull together and work together as a group to move forward.
Well, I'll say that each one of the county commissioners have reached out and have said that, you know, they're going to support the city commission no matter what our decision, and so that, you know, they really do see all of us as a vital part of working together. Even though I attended most of the county commission meetings, sometimes virtually, not in person, the information about the hospital and the number of ICU beds and all of that, how at the level of care they were at, that was the first time I'd heard that information. And so I think that, like Commissioner Sessions is pointing out, having this information and being more transparent, and then again, working together to really say, how can we really move this forward? But as part of that moving forward, I know that they are going to be considering an ordinance or a resolution, I know, on their upcoming meeting. But is that part of this idea of is moving forward, making sure that we say, here's parts of the solution, not the solution, because I don't think there is one.
And as a median for me, I mean, if I'm looking at both sides of this, the median here is just the campaign of education.
Yeah.
I mean, on both sides of the spectrum, I don't hear a lot of complaints about, well, education, we don't need to do that. Why should we educate? I mean, if it were me, I'd like to move with that and jump on the wagon and say, okay, let's educate. I know we did a really good job when we wanted to open back up businesses of wiping down carts, hand sanitizer stations everywhere. We did a really good job because you had people, they stationed people out there to wipe the carts down before they came in or before you took it. I think that is a lot better than saying to people you have to wear a mask or don't make fun of me because I'm not wearing a mask. The median here to me is just to get an education out there or some sort of a campaign to direct everyone to help out in their own way.
Well, I think that education piece is key. I do. I think that the more education people have, the better informed they're going to be, the better decisions they can make that help them, for themselves. But mask shaming goes both ways.
That's right.
Because I've also been shamed for wearing my mask in the community. And so if there's a way that we can somehow come together, I don't know what that is. I mean, it just amazes me that we are this volatile about something like this. And as Commissioner Cessna said, we're in the middle of the forest and it's on fire and we have a garden hose to put it out. And we're at that point. And I don't know that any decision that's made today is going to be met with any sort of praise or recognition. It's really going to be a divisive decision either way. But really, at the end of the day, as elected officials, it's up to us to protect our community, and it's up to us to make those decisions for the good of the whole. And that's the place where I'm coming from.
I have a few more numbers. So when CDC, and this is back in March or May, they released a pandemic planning, where to plan to be with hospitalizations, fatalities, and stuff like that. They said to plan for every 29 people that test positive, one of them to turn into a hospitalization. So far, just Finney County, we're just looking at Finney County data. So far, we're at every 22 that test positive are in a hospital. So that's worse than what CDC said to plan for. Similarly, with fatalities, they said 1 out of every 250 positives should end up in a fatality, or we expect to end up in a fatality. We're actually right now, and this was updated with the current 21st, 22nd, and 23rd death, we're at 157 positives ending up in a fatality, which is at a rate 60% greater than what we should have been, what we would have been expecting. So these numbers are kind of up there. So when we talk about, so for Finney County, we're 157 people testing positive results in 1 fatality. Yesterday, we had 76 positives. That means we should expect, we have a 50-50 chance that somebody who tested positive is getting in a fatal case, right? So those numbers are there. I mean, these aren't out there numbers. These are what we're actually seeing, the actual fatalities, the actual hospitalization rates in our community. The other thing that some people have pointed at is that some of these places like Johnson County and Sedgwick County, and I believe Salina is the other one, Saline County, that has, or Saline, sorry, they don't like it if you call it Saline. Saline County, they've had spikes just like we've had spikes recently. Their spikes are, and I'm looking at per capita, per 100,000 people. Their current spike is in Salina, it's at 49.5 people per 100,000 have tested positive. That's at the top of the spike. That's the most recent spike data. In Johnson County, we're at 53 per 100,000. At Sedgwick County, we're at 84 per 100,000. That's the spikes that they're all dealing with, that they're saying, oh my, and I mean, Sedgwick County just even, I believe, even implement even tougher lockdowns because they're at 84, which is twice that of Saline County and 50% higher than Johnson County. Finney County is at 133. So when we're talking about our spike here being bad and everybody having spikes, if we had the rate that Johnson County would have, I don't even think we'd be having this meeting. I mean, if we're only talking about, we're right around 400, 500 active cases right now. If we're only talking about 250 active cases, I don't think we're even having this meeting. So to compare what we're going through our spike right now and say, well, other places are going through spikes that have a mandate, well, yeah, but they're at such a lower number, any little up is gonna look huge because we're talking about these changes, these rates of changes. We're starting high and we just keep on getting higher. And we did do a good job through the summer, really through June through the beginning of September. We did a really good job keeping that down below 25, but really that's really increased up there. So a couple of other points, like people alluded to, the thing that I'm most fearful of is that ICU and hospital space. And it isn't just the COVID. I mean, the easiest solution would be, well, you know, people make their own decisions about getting sick or not, or doing dangerous things or not. They're the ones that have to be punished if we run out of hospital spaces, right? But the problem is it's not that case because we have to use a hospital space for more than just this one pandemic. So if we're using up these hospital spaces for these things that are preventable, then if somebody has a car crash, if somebody has a heart attack, we're using up our medical capacity on something else. And I know personally, I will be fine, most likely. I mean, the statistics show, most likely I'm gonna be completely fine. My family will be completely fine if we get COVID, right? That's not what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of if our community has the rate that we do, we're filling up the beds like we are, and I get in a car wreck and my daughter has to go to the hospital. Will she have that care because of what's going on in the community? So that's one of my things. The other thing is we're talking about risk. And a lot of this is about managing risk and how can you wear a mask most of the times that if you go to a restaurant, you don't. And you will, there is exposure there, but part of that is managing overall risk with trying to live as a normal lifestyle. So there is chances to get exposure at places that we have exemptions in here. I believe we have physical activities, outdoor activities, sitting and eating. And there are risks that are tied to that, but those are deemed either essential, so we need to live with that risk, or if you have a problem with that, you can do curbside pickup and take that food home. Or that risk is so low that it's negligent, or it's such a small thing that the exercise itself is more of a benefit than wearing a mask because the chances of transmission versus the benefits to health outweigh each other. So when we're talking about this, all this isn't a binary yes, no, I am gonna get it, I'm not gonna get it. These things are good, these things are bad. It's all about a gradient of what is risky, what isn't risky, and how can we make the things that we need to do as not as risky as possible. And then the final thing I'd like to say, and I believe we talked about that is, I mean, our job is to make these decisions, and the people who know what's best for them 99.9% of the time is the experts in the field. And we're hearing experts from the hospital, we're hearing experts from all the care providers, we're hearing from schools and stuff like that, that these are the steps we need to take. And as a commission, I feel like we always listen to the experts because they're the ones that are immersed in this. They know the ins and outs. They know when this study gets published 2 days ago, they're reading up on that. And not everybody knows that. So that I usually tend to side on the side of the experts because they are the ones that live each of these every day. I mean, we don't try to figure out how to do things with electric. I mean, we have our experts in electric come in and say, hey, we should buy out this power pool system to be able to transmit. You're like, sounds good. I don't know things like that. We listen to our experts. So I think that really is my last time. I will say thank you for everybody for coming in and telling, and sharing your viewpoint and doing all that. I mean, this is vital to how a community works and how governance works and stuff like that. I mean, I'm very pleased with the number of people that came out and let us know, and in person, but also the numerous phone calls and emails and messages and stuff. I mean, I don't think there'll be another issue that we have to deal with that will even get close to this much contact that I've had with everybody on both sides of the issue. So.
All downhill from here, huh?
It's, this is the key. Yeah.
Well, I know that my phone won't stop ringing once this decision is made today, simply because there will still be people who are going to need to take care of their
Right.
families because they need food, they need medical supplies, they need this or they need that. And those are the stories that I listen to on a very regular basis. And, you know, and these aren't people who aren't employed. I mean, these are people who have jobs, have insurance, and are struggling because of COVID, either because they've had it and they can't work, or they don't have it, but they've been laid off because of their business that is closed or is impacted. And so for me, it comes down to thinking about what's going to be in our community's best interest, and listening to the experts and listening to what they have to say. But then also appreciating the fact that we have so many people who have brought their opinions on the other side. You haven't made it easy for us, and that's good, because this is not a decision that should be made lightly, and we should struggle with this one. But at the end of the day, it's what's best for our community, and whether that be through a requirement of wearing masks or not is yet to be decided by this commission.
So I again, just want to reiterate, this has been an incredible time of public comment, not only last meeting, but also this meeting. And I know all the commissioners have said how much they appreciate the amount of public input. There's been a lot with passion. I mean, I've read stories that I never really knew happened in Garden City. Some have really, you know, impacted me in a way I feel like I've not really paid attention enough. So again, the decision is not going to be easy in how we decide that. I do want to say that I didn't realize that the hospital had to close a behavioral unit just due to the care for COVID patients. And that was probably one of the biggest shocks to me, that they had to make some very definite decisions. So I do appreciate this idea of the education. I do want to let you know that we are moving forward with the county, in connection with the county, to move forward, to be a partner with them on their 3W campaign and the educational campaign. I've had the opportunity to be a part of several meetings. Commissioner Dries and I actually did a video this morning just to really promote their 3Ws. So just to let you know that education, I agree, is the thing that we really, again, that we're going to continue to do. Any final comments for the commissioner before I call for a vote?
No.
Just want to make sure that we're in agreements on the motion. Again, it's for ordinance 2884-2020 and requiring a face mask coverings in the city of Garden City with the additional item L in section 4, again, which probably, I know, was just handed to us by legal counsel, but again, I'll read it at Section 4, item L, persons engaged in religious activities protected by the First Amendment to the United States Constitution, including but not limited to worship services. And we are in agreement for that addition.
Right.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure everybody, we're good.
So the only other thing I wanted to do to make sure, I did have a question about enforcement, and I know Chief Utes is here. I really would like you to speak to that before we make our final decision. There are, on section 5, it talks about enforcement, violation, and penalties, and so there are a couple of items underneath there. And so, Chief Utes, would you speak to the idea of enforcement and how that will look?
Sure. Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. The enforcement of this ordinance would be mirrored to our standard traffic ordinances. Traffic violations, running stop signs, parking violations, even the tobacco violations. As an infraction, it would be a cite and release. Although the officers would have that discretion, and we would push out the education of the ordinance, that the ordinance is in place, and have masks with us and try to encourage compliance before any enforcement action would be taken. But it would be a cite and release. It's not the rumors that the police would haul people to jail and all this is not true. That would not happen.
Thank you. And I know that you've worked with other communities who do have a face covering requirement. I know you've talked with them and then in order to help put together this kind of information.
Yes, sir. I've talked to about a half dozen chiefs that have the ordinance or did not have passed the ordinance, that they went through a process and didn't pass it. But majority of them had the ordinance, and it was exactly what I said. It was a cite and release situation, but more emphasis on education to gain compliance and move forward with it that way. Now the other, my recollection reading some of the other past ordinances, they were misdemeanors, and in speaking with the city manager and Randy Grizel, it was recommended that we place it as an infraction if an ordinance would be passed.
Yeah, I did want to note that that, you know, with the infraction, that if this ordinance passes, that there is no court costs associated with this, which actually would jump the cost of any type of infraction up by quite a bit.
That's correct.
And so I did, when I was reading through this, I wanted to make sure, note that no court cost should be assessed as a result of a conviction. So that does save a lot of dollars. And again, I know there was a concern about clogging our court system. And so again, I think this idea of the fine and release, or the citation and release. Like, any questions for Chief Utes?
Mayor, there have been a number of questions around the gyms, workout facilities,
Yeah.
and recreation programming, like for the like GCRC or the YMCA. You know, I think that take those separately. I think when the fitness facilities are taking measures to adjust distance, which sounds like many have, and they have sort of a professional set of best practices for theirs, that would be viewed as making an effort to be in compliance with the ordinance. Obviously, things would be on a case-by-case basis. The other side of it would be the recreational programming for GCRC or YMCA or you know, school districts or whatever. Those would be viewed as under the exemption under H if they've got organizational best practices. KRPA, for instance, I can only speak for GCRC after talking with Aaron Stewart that, you know, Kansas Parks and Recreation Association has best practices for how to best allow for these team recreational activities or individual sport recreational activities, but limit risk. Kind of speaking to maybe what Commissioner Dick was referring to, finding that balance. So we believe those types of things for the people engaged in the activity. Obviously, if you're in that public setting and not engaged in that activity, the standard would be different. But, that's how that would shake out under this ordinance. That really the questions we've taken on those that have read the ordinance and wondered about how they fit into the picture in this. It's almost exclusively been along those lines.
And that's what I was reading it as, is if there's a professional association that says, you know, while you're doing this professional activity, I mean, and it's deemed that you can't wear a mask while doing this for safety reasons or those reasons, that this is falling under that exemption. Right?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, and also one of the exemptions too is those with medical conditions, mental health conditions, or disability that we're wearing a face covering would not be in their best interest. I think that's another exemption that I think needs to be
Highlighted.
Validated or spoken as well.
You're talking about exemption, under section 4, exemption B?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Persons with medical conditions, mental health condition, or disability that prevents wearing a face covering.